Hi, I'm Vanessa Lake, spiritual practitioner and mental health therapist, a trauma therapist, mostly for corrections officers. So I've heard my share of some really dark stories. People that didn't really seem human to do the things that they've done. Today, I'm diving into that shadowy stuff. Dark entities, dark forces, dark energies. But not like horror movies. This isn't about making you afraid. Fear feeds the dark side, and we don't feed the trolls. Instead, I'm here to help you understand what these energies really are, how they show up in your everyday life, not just in creepy hauntings, and most importantly, what you can actually do about them. By the end of this video, you'll know the difference between Hollywood demons and real energetic parasites, how they connect to mental health and trauma, and how your daily choices can cut off their food supply. And yes, I'll share a tool you can use today to clear and protect your own energy. And please leave a comment with your questions. I'll probably need to do a follow-up Q&A video because I myself keep asking questions of my guides and learning new things the more I do this work and come face to face with them. So, what are dark entities? Let's get clear about what I mean. We're not talking about evil murderers or the boogeyman. At least, not just that. They are energy beings and forces designed to dim your light, drain your power, and feed off low vibrations like fear, anger, shame, or guilt. Think of them like energetic leeches, parasites, or hackers. They don't create their own light, so they steal yours. Hence, the feeding off of you makes it like a parasite. Some are disembodied spirits stuck in trauma loops. Some are more advanced, like ancient beings who've made a career out of feeding on human suffering. It doesn't even come with a dental plan. Are there demons? Well, that depends on your definition. I see a dark entity attached to someone's auric field, draining their energy. And I say, that's a dark entity eating lunch. But you might call that a demon. The words have different meanings because of religion and movies. So, what I call it might not be the same thing you call it. It's about the energy that's still there. Is there dark things that feed off of our energy? Yeah, whatever you want to call them. Now, there's also reptilian beings. I've seen them when I do the Akashic records and past lives. I've definitely seen those. AI technology, artificial but ancient, not like we have nowadays. I see that show up in people's soul grids, and I remove it to help heal the soul grid itself. And then there's fractured soul fragments that act as parasites because, again, they're fractured off from the soul and the light and the source. And so they have to get an energy source from somewhere and they feed off other people. Not necessarily evil, but I mean, that's what they do. So, where did they come from? Well, let's go a history lesson. Galactic style. Back in the day, way back, the Orion Wars. That's where a lot of these power struggles between light and dark really escalated. Whole star systems fought over control, sovereignty, and light. Some beings chose source and expansion. Others, good old free will, rejected it and went the control and consume route. Reptilian races, for example, learned how to siphon soul spark energy. They've done this to planets, civilizations, and yes, to humans. Again, the work that I do with the grid work for planets is not just Earth. I've healed other planets that were being siphoned off of by these reptilians. A planet has a giant soul energy source. I mean, it's keeping the entire ecosystem alive. So that's a lot of energy that when they learned how to tap into it, that they were using and allowing these planets to die. And then there's, what they do to humans or human beings. I myself have a past life memory of when I was a Black Panther person. Might explain why I'm still so hairy. But they were siphoning the soul spark out of my chest. My soul fragmented. Basically, my soul said, I'm not dealing with this shit. I'm going to break off and I'll come back for you later. And it took off, crossed over, basically. But then in that trauma loop, my soul fragment was still there feeding them. So I had to remove it and then integrate it. These are things that I do for myself, but also for my clients. Then there's ancient AI. It gets woven in. It's not just sci-fi. However, it's interesting that a lot of sci-fi movies, either subconsciously, unconsciously, pick up on a lot of these experiences that really did happen hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago. But the ancient artificial intelligence, it's designed to disconnect beings from source. When you disconnect them from source, they're easier to control. This is where the soul grid implants come in, tech that's designed to distort your natural light, cut you off from higher frequencies, and keep you stuck in trauma loops. This is the soul grid clearing that I've done for people that had what showed up as AI tech implanted in the back of their neck, cutting off their connection to higher source. I've seen AI tech in people's wombs, their creative center, and they couldn't give birth to their dreams. They couldn't manifest their creations because this AI tech was blocking it. So I've definitely seen this firsthand. They've even tinkered with our DNA to make us more controllable. That's kind of where all this comes from, right? I mean, you have this massive amount of potential slaves. So you find a way to tap into that, and then you can control them. You eat off of their energy source, all the negative, low vibe stuff, and they don't question and they don't fight back when you cut them off from realizing how powerful we actually are as humans, connected to source with our soul, which most of them ain't got. Um, so if you want to learn more about the Orion Wars and where they come from, Elizabeth Evans has wonderful material on her YouTube channel. She does galactic hypnosis past life regressions. Basically, she's getting people into their past lives galactically, because that's where a lot of this has started. It's not just their human lifetime like 1822. This is galactic hundreds of thousands of years ago. I've included a link to her channel if you want to dive deeper. What I like is, again, she's not fear-based. She's empowering you to know the truth, to get your power back, and to heal a lot of these wounds that have happened many, many lifetimes ago. So here's the big philosophical question. If God, Source, created everything, did Source create evil? Well, the short answer is free will, which means there will always be beings who choose separation, control, or destruction over connection, love, and light. They can choose to separate themselves from it. Darkness exists in duality. It's part of the 3D experience. You can't know hot without cold. You can't know light without dark. You can't know tall without short, right? Duality. We know this. But here's the kicker. Duality doesn't mean balance. Light is always stronger. Darkness only survives by tricking you into feeding it. Once you take away the food source, once you start to, starve it, it loses its power. And the other thing about duality is that we live in a world where duality exists, but it doesn't need to exist on the level of trauma and pain and suffering that these beings have created. Will it always exist? I mean, maybe in some form, again, light and dark duality, but it doesn't need to be this extreme or powerful because it keeps getting fed. Once we reclaim our power, our light, our sovereignty, the dark loses its grip, it loses its power, it weakens, and then the duality can be what it was meant to be. The duality of grief is still loss, not a traumatic, horrible death, but still, oh, yep, their life is done and I'm grieving the loss of them. And then you have joy and birth. So you have death and birth, but without torture, suffering, trauma, we don't need that. You can still have duality and understand those two different sides of the coin without the level of extreme that we do here on Earth. Now, some of you are already thinking, wait a sec. If we create our reality with our beliefs, then if I don't believe in demons or dark entities, won't they leave me alone? That is a great question, and one that I was dealing with. I thought, if I just didn't interact with them, right? I wasn't doing dark magic. I wasn't calling forth. I wasn't summoning demons. I wasn't doing anything with the darkness, or so I thought. And then when I was crossing stuck spirits, doing something loving and beautiful, I came face to face with them. And I was like, oh, shit, it's real. Okay, part of me was hoping it wasn't actually real and it was just in the movies. But no, I did it in my video, which I'll include the link to. But when I was crossing the townspeople, those church leaders were not human. They were influencing people to do horrible, awful things. Again, free will. The townspeople still had to choose to do awful things, but they influence them, trying to tell them it was God's will and you'll be punished if you don't. And they're pretty tricky like that. Again, not forcing you to do anything, but influencing you to make some pretty bad decisions. You can check out that video to hear more about that. But here's the deal. Yes, your beliefs shape your reality. If you don't believe in them, you're less likely to notice them. I went a long time without noticing them. But here's the catch. Just because you don't believe in gravity doesn't mean you float away. Dark energies operate like viruses. You don't have to believe in germs, which again, society did not understand germs or know it for the longest time, but they were still getting sick. There were still plagues and there was still the flu and all of that. So the same with dark entities. Whether you believe in them or not, they can still influence the collective energy you live in because we still live in this world where they exist. The real power is not in ignoring them. It's in knowing that they exist without giving them your fear, any of those dark emotions. Again, human emotions are one thing. It's feeding into it and staying stuck there. That's a problem, right? Like you get angry, you get pissed, you stay there for like 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes, and then you let it go and you move on and you do something about it. You act on it or whatever. You don't stay there for days and weeks still pissed about something. That's feeding it. Awareness is not the same as obsession. Think of it like locking your doors at night. You're not afraid of burglars, but you're not going to leave your front door wide open either. And here's something most people don't think about. Your beliefs don't just come from this life, they carry over. So you might say, I don't believe in demons, so they can't affect me. Cool. But what about that version of you 300 years ago who was a healer burned at the stake because some dark sources manipulated the church? Or the lifetime where you fought in the Orion Wars against reptilians? Or the one where you lost your whole family to entities feeding on trauma? It's not just about who you are now in this life. That's your spirit. Your soul is all of those lifetimes over time. That soul memory is still in your field. Even if your conscious brain today is like, nope, don't believe in it. Your subconscious and your soul carry the imprints. Those imprints are like energetic magnets. They can draw in familiar patterns, whether you consciously buy into them or not. That's why some people are more sensitive to dark energy. They've had lifetimes battling it. Others might be more oblivious because their soul hasn't tangled with it as much. Neither is better or worse. It just explains why your spiritual experiences don't always match your conscious beliefs. Consciously didn't think I would ever have to interact with darkness or reptilians or, parasites and all this. And then I'm like, oh, here I am doing this work. So bottom line, denial doesn't make you immune. Awareness, healing past life trauma, and reclaiming your power does. How do they affect us now? Well, here's where it gets real, because dark entities don't just show up as possessions and hauntings. They feed on trauma loops. Remember the story where I shared about the 3 church leaders and didn't cross them because they were feeding on the townspeople trauma? That link that I put in the description? That's how this works. They can hijack a soul grid, like the client that had the metal boots. That's how they showed up for me. These boots kept her stuck in depression and anxiety because those low vibes were feeding the dark forces. I then went in and removed those boots because that's what I do. Take away their food source. Even in prisons, correction officers I work with have looked into the eyes of inmates who've done unspeakable things and said, there's no soul there. They just see blackness. That's often a hijacking, a possession, or a walk-in situation where the soul left, died basically, and the body was up for grabs in that in-between phase, and the darkness walked in. Yeah, shit like that happens. It's real. It's creepy. But again, my correction officers don't doubt it for a heartbeat. They know. They look at somebody and say, there's no way they're human. There's no soul there. And they know it. They're not crazy. So what does this look like for everyday people, not just my correction officers working in the prison? It's anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, intrusive thoughts, addictive loops. Yes, they have psychological roots, but they also can be amplified by dark energies feeding off the cycle. Media diet matters. When you binge horror films, violent shows, true crime, guess who's feeding off that energy? Yeah, them. Be careful what you are feeding them. Even judgment, gossip, self-hate, those little daily things feed the dark. So How do you know if you're being influenced? Here's some signs that you're dealing with dark interference. You feel drained for no reason. You spiral into shame, rage, or fear more often than makes sense for your life. And you're not just hormonal. You feel watched, like something's just off, those creep vibes. You're stuck in patterns you've tried everything to break. Or your inner critic sounds like it's on steroids. So let's talk about the ego because this trips people up all the time. How do you know the difference between your ego being a critic and an actual dark interference? The ego's job is to keep you safe. It points out risk. It tries to keep you small because small feels safe. The voice in your head says, don't embarrass yourself. You're not ready yet. Don't take the risk. You might fail. That's ego doing its job, but, turned up a little bit loud. Dark influence feels different. It's heavier. It's repetitive. It doesn't just whisper, be careful, this might go wrong. It hammers you with, you're worthless. No one cares. Just give up. Why are you even here? You're a piece of shit. It's bad. That's dark influence. Your ego tries to protect you. Dark energy tries to erase you. So here's the kicker. Dark entities love to hijack the ego. They'll take that little self-doubt and crank up the volume to 100 so you think it's you and your own thoughts, but it's not. So no, the ego itself is not a dark entity, but it can become their favorite DJ booth if you don't notice the pattern. Another way around this is your ego is trying to protect you and keep you safe. If you mentally try and soothe your ego, hey, I know you're just trying to protect me. I see that you're trying to help me with these risks. I'm going to do it anyways, and we are going to be just fine. We're okay. I've done it before. I can do this again. I've done hard things. Those pep talks that make you feel better, if they're not making you feel better, that's some dark influence. If it's your ego, then it can be soothed to know, oh, you're going to be okay. You're going to do this thing, even though it's scary and there might be rejection and, people might not like you, but you're going to do it anyways. Oh, all right. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to get on board because I am your ego and you are in control of it. So how I weaken their power. Let me be really clear about something. I don't fight dark entities. I'm not in camo pants hunting demons like Ghostbusters Therapist Edition. That's not how light wins. What I do is way simpler and way more effective. I remove their food source. If they feed off fear, trauma, and disconnection, then the best thing we can do is help people heal, reclaim their power, and shine brighter. So here's how that looks like in the work that I do. Healing soul grids through the Akashic Records. It's untangling trauma loops from this life, past lives, and soul contracts that keep people trapped. Fragment integration. Calling back the pieces of spirit and soul that got lost through trauma so people feel whole again, instead of like Swiss cheese. And all those holes are leaking energy that dark forces feed off, so it's important to integrate these parts. This is often referred to as soul retrieval. It's calling back parts of you that split off because it was too painful to hold on to. Crossing stuck spirits. Helping the dead move on so they're not feeding or being fed on by dark energies, right? If they're stuck, it's because usually of guilt and shame, unfinished business, not feeling worthy to step into the light. All of that dark energy feeds the dark ones. Land and planetary grid work. Clearing trauma imprints from places, releasing those siphons I was talking about earlier where they're trying to kill planets, and even healing portals and ley lines. They're just energy lines. They can be used for good or bad, where dark forces are tapping into the earth. Teaching clients how not to give their power away. Because honestly, empowerment is the best exorcism tool. Claim your power again. Don't give it away. Well, I don't know. Well, maybe somebody else can decide for me. No, that's giving your power away. Keeping my own field clear. I regularly cleanse my home, technology, and energy because even healers have to practice what they preach. Planet level healing. I've worked on spaces where entire planetary beings were being siphoned. And let me tell you, watching a planet heal is way better than a Hallmark movie. Working with my dragons, Galactic team, angels, and crystals. Having an obsidian sword in my hand makes me feel pretty damn empowered. Dragons breathing cleansing fire and protecting my space while Archangel Michael is cutting through some dark energy cords? Yeah, feel like a badass. Certainly not afraid of dark forces in that moment, so I work with my team. And through it all, I stay in my lane. No fear, no drama, no cosmic war mindset. I don't think battle and fight because that's, again, some dark energy. I just say, F you, I'm taking away your food source. Starve to death, don't care. My team even shows me the dark side as cartoons or movies so I can laugh at it, stay high vibe, and never get sucked into taking them too seriously. I've done entity clearings where parasites show up as the evil queen, or the dwarf Grumpy from Snow White, or Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. It keeps me from feeling fear, though I don't think Disney would be too happy to hear this. I've seen dark energies on ley lines show up as clogged pipes that could use a little Drano. Because here's the truth: the dark only has power when we feed it. When we reclaim our light, integrate our soul, heal our trauma, we don't just protect ourselves, we starve the entire system that's been trying to feed off humanity for eons. And speaking of my team, they asked me to share this message with you, which I channeled and wrote down because that way I'd remember. Darkness is not something to fear, but something to understand. It thrives in secrecy, in shame, in pretending it doesn't exist. Every time you bring light, every time you laugh at what once scared you, every time you choose compassion over judgment, you are dismantling centuries of programming. Do not underestimate the ripple of one healed heart. You are not powerless in this. You are the food source, which means you are also the solution. Shine brighter and the shadows dissolve. All right, so what can you actually do? Not just what I am doing about it, because I'm doing a lot. But first of all, you don't have to be a healer, psychic, or medium to make an impact. Your choice to stay out of gossip, to stop feeding fear spirals, to care for your mental health. Those small actions weaken the dark more than you realize. And it starts with you, creates the ripple effect. Here's some other things you can do right now. First, cut off their food supply. I'm all about starving the bitch. Pay attention to your thoughts, media, and where your energy goes. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, presence over numbing, alcohol, drugs, not wanting to feel shit, you starve the dark. Energy hygiene. Just like you brush your teeth daily, clear your energy daily. Ground, shield, and reclaim your space. Check out my video on creating a daily energy hygiene practice. The link is in the description. Or purchase my meditation to keep it on your phone to listen to morning and night. Call back your power. Anytime you notice your mind running down fear spirals, pause. Say, I reclaim my energy. I reclaim my light. Simple, but powerful. Use your voice, because the law of free will is the highest law of the universe. So you must demand, command, declare, intend, but not out of fear. Like, oh, please go away. Don't hurt me. I think there's something here. I feel it. Oh, please go away. No. You stand and talk and use your voice, but also raise the vibration. So tell them, hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more. Okay. Sing it if you want to. Just go. Walk out the door. Turn around now. You're not welcome anymore. You can do whatever keeps your vibration high and not afraid and not so serious. It's about the intention. Keep it powerful. And yes, sometimes music really is powerful. Find a theme song that makes you feel empowered. Support your mental health. Therapy, journaling, meditation, spending time in nature away from technology. This is spiritual armor too, because healed trauma doesn't leak energy the same way. Move your body, even just going for a walk, but dancing is really good too. It helps you move the energy out of your field. And that's important if you're carrying some dark energy that you picked up from, other people or something you watched on social media or heard in the news. There's so many low vibe things you're exposed to. So move and get it off you. And then use tools designed for clearing, which brings me to this. If you want a simple but powerful tool, I've created a 20-minute guided meditation for dark energy clearing and protection. It's Reiki infused, so all the energy tingles. It means it carries an energetic charge that helps sweep out attachments, cut cords, and fortify your energy field. You can use it anytime you feel off or just part of your weekly self care, which I would definitely say weekly in this day and age. You don't need a priest or a Hollywood exorcism, but you do need your light, your boundaries, and the right tools. So it's not about horror. It's not doom. It's just understanding how the dark side works. So you stop feeding off of it and start standing fully in your power. Because every time one of us reclaims our light, it ripples out. It weakens the grip of the dark on the collective. We don't fight darkness, we outshine it. And if you need more help with that, if you're concerned, check out any of my services. I can do, a soul grid healing if you feel like something is attached to you. If you can't break patterns on your own, we can look at doing an Akashic reading to see where it stems from and truly release that soul contract, burn it into the violet flame, and release those attachments from any of that dark energy. If you just want to talk it through and you're trying to figure out where you're at with stuff, we can do some spiritual coaching. I have lots of options. This is what I do: grid work, trauma healing, the starving the darkness. So let me help you. Reach out if you need to. And by all means, leave a comment if you have questions. I'd be happy to do a follow-up video. So there's a lot of stuff here. This is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. So take care. Keep yourself clean and shine your lights.